The divorce papers arrived on Christmas Eve. Elena Hartwell signed them in the empty penthouse overlooking Central Park, watching fat snowflakes dissolve against the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her hand didn't shake. She'd used up all her tears 3 months ago, when she'd found the forensic accounting report hidden in her husband's safe, the one proving he'd deliberately tanked her family's pharmaceutical company to acquire it at bankruptcy prices. Not an affair. Something worse, calculated destruction dressed up as love. She left the signed papers on the marble kitchen island beside his untouched breakfast and walked out with one suitcase, leaving behind the Mrs. Damien Cross who'd believed marriage meant partnership, the naive woman who thought his late-night meetings were about business expansion, not corporate warfare against her own blood. Her phone buzzed as she stepped into the elevator. Damian, Elena, we need to talk about this rationally. She blocked his number and didn't look back. What Damien Cross didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Elena had discovered she was pregnant the same day she'd found that report. 6 weeks along, standing in their bathroom, with a positive test in one hand and evidence of his betrayal in the other. She'd made her choice in that moment. Some secrets were mercy. Some love stories don't start with love. They start with loss. If you're drawn to billionaire romances filled with regret, redemption, and strong women who don't forgive easily, subscribe for more stories like this. And as you listen, let me know in the comments whose side you're on. Now, back to the story. 9 months later, on another snowy December night, Damien Cross stood in his office at Cross Industries, staring at the city lights below. The view was the same. Everything else had imploded. "Sir, the board meeting's in 10 minutes. His assistant Marcus hovered in the doorway. "They're calling for your resignation." Damien didn't turn around. Let them. The past year had been a masterclass in consequences. Elena's family company, Hartwell Pharmaceuticals, had possessed the only patent for a revolutionary cancer treatment. He'd orchestrated its financial collapse to acquire the patent, planning to save it and merge it with Cross Industries, a power move that would have made him untouchable. Except Elena had figured it out before he could execute the final phase. And she'd done something he'd never anticipated. She'd burned it all down. In the 3 months between her discovery and their divorce, Elena had quietly contacted every one of his business rivals, sold the patent rights to a non-profit research consortium for $1, and leaked carefully documented evidence of his corporate sabotage to the SEC. By the time he'd realized what was happening, his reputation was in free fall. 3 major deals had collapsed, and the board wanted his head. But the worst part, the part that kept him awake at night, was that she'd disappeared completely. No forwarding address, no social media presence. Even the best private investigators he'd hired had come up empty. She'd erased herself from his life as thoroughly as he'd tried to erase her family's legacy. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Mr. Cross," a woman's voice, professional and cold. "This is Rebecca Chen from St. Mary's Hospital in Portland, Oregon. I'm calling on behalf of Elena Hartwell. She's listed you as an emergency contact." Damien's blood turned to ice. "What happened? Is she?" "She's fine, but there's been a complication. She's asking for you. I'll be on the next flight." "Mr. Cross," the nurse's voice stopped him. "You should know there's a baby. A little girl, born 3 hours ago." The phone slipped from his hand. The hospital hallway smelled like pine-scented disinfectant and desperate hope. Damien had chartered a jet, driven through a snowstorm, and was now standing outside room 347, terrified in a way no business deal had ever made him. Elena had been pregnant when she left. For 9 months, she'd carried his child, and he hadn't known. The door opened before he could knock. A tall black woman in scrubs studied him with obvious distrust. "You're Cross. Where is she?" "Sleeping. The delivery was complicated. Emergency C-section. She lost a lot of blood." The woman, her name tag read Dr. Nina Foster, neonatal, didn't move aside. "The baby's in NICU." Premature by 3 weeks. Respiratory distress. She's stable now, but it was touch and go. Can I see her? Elena, I mean. She saw you on the news 6 months ago. The congressional hearing about corporate fraud. Dr. Foster's voice could have cut glass. She was 7 months pregnant, working double shifts at a free clinic because her accounts were frozen in the divorce proceedings. And she watched you deny everything under oath. She had a panic attack so severe I had to sedate her. Damian felt physically sick. I didn't know. That's the problem, isn't it? You didn't know because you didn't care to find out what destroying her family's company actually cost her. Dr. Foster stepped aside finally. She called you because the baby needs specialized surgery. The kind that costs $500,000 that Elena doesn't have because you made sure of that. The room was dim, lit only by machines and the amber glow of Christmas lights someone had strung along the window. Elena lay in the hospital bed, smaller than he remembered.
An IV
her
drip
dark
fed
hair
into her
spread
arm.
across the pillow. She looked fragile and fierce simultaneously. A warrior who'd survived a battle but hadn't won the war. Her eyes opened when he approached. Gray eyes he'd once memorized, now holding nothing but exhaustion. Hello, Damian. Elena. His voice broke on her name. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? She shifted slightly, wincing. Would you have confessed what you did to Hartwell Pharma? Would you have stopped? He couldn't answer because they both knew the truth. Her name is Sophia. Elena's gaze drifted to the window, toward wherever the NICU was located. She has your eyes, and a hole in her heart that needs to be repaired within the next 48 hours, or... She didn't finish. I'll pay for everything. The best surgeons. I know you will. Elena's laugh was bitter. That's why I called. Because you're good at buying things. Solutions. Silence. Redemption. That's not fair. Fair? She looked at him then. Really looked at him. And Damian saw the full weight of what he'd done reflected in her expression. You bankrupted my family's company. The company my grandfather built. That my mother died trying to save, so you could acquire a patent. You played financial chess with people's lives. My cousin Daniel lost his house. Our head researcher, Dr. Park, had a stroke from the stress. 37 families lost their health insurance when you initiated the hostile takeover. I was trying to preserve the patent. The treatment could save millions. By destroying dozens first. Elena closed her eyes. I loved you, Damian. I would have given you anything. If you'd just asked, if you'd trusted me, we could have merged the companies legally. But you didn't want a partnership. You wanted conquest. I thought I was protecting you. Your father was running Hartwell into the ground. So you decided to push it off the cliff yourself? Her eyes snapped open. Don't you dare rewrite this as altruism. A nurse entered, breaking the tension. Mrs. Hartwell, the neonatal surgeon, wants to discuss Sophia's procedure. Elena struggled to sit up, pale with effort. Damian moved automatically to help her, but she flinched away. Don't touch me. He froze, hands suspended in the air between them. The trust fund, Elena said flatly. The one your grandmother left you. The one you can't touch for business. Only family. Use it for Sophia's surgery. And then leave. I'm not leaving my daughter. She's not your daughter yet. Elena's voice was steady. Final. She's mine. You're just the biological donor I called in an emergency. Sign the check, Damian. It's what you're good at. Act 3, the first Noel. Damian didn't leave. He stood in the NICU, hands pressed against the glass, watching a tiny infant in an incubator. Sophia, his daughter. Wires and tubes connected her to machines that beeped softly, monitoring her struggling heart. She was impossibly small, with dark wisps of hair and features he couldn't quite distinguish through the medical apparatus. You can go in, a nurse offered. Gown and gloves, but you can touch her. Skin contact helps preemies. He'd negotiated billion-dollar deals, faced down corporate raiders, given congressional testimony without flinching. But walking into that NICU was the hardest thing he'd ever done. Sophia's eyes were closed. her chest rising and falling with mechanical assistance. When he placed his gloved finger in her palm, her tiny hand curled around it with instinctive trust. Something inside him cracked open. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." The apology wasn't for Sophia. She was innocent, perfect, and deserved none of this. The apology was for Elena, the woman he'd married thinking love was something you could strategize, optimize, and control. He'd loved her. God help him, he still loved her. But he'd loved winning more, and that had poisoned everything. The surgery was scheduled for Christmas morning. Damian spent Christmas Eve making calls, but not to lawyers or business associates. He contacted every person affected by Hartwell Pharma's collapse. Daniel Hartwell, Elena's cousin who'd lost his home. Dr. Park's family. The 37 employees who'd been laid off. He couldn't undo what he'd done, but he could start accounting for it. At midnight, he returned to Elena's room. She was awake, staring at the ceiling, one hand pressed against her bandaged abdomen. "Can't sleep?" he asked from the doorway. "They'll take her into surgery in 7 hours." Elena's voice was hollow. "I might lose her because I was too proud to call you sooner, because I wanted to prove I could do this alone. It's your fault, isn't it? I chose to keep her a secret. I chose to work myself into exhaustion rather than ask for help. I chose." Her voice broke. Damian moved into the room slowly, giving her space to object. When she didn't, he sat in the chair beside her bed. "I called Daniel tonight," he said, "and Dr. Park's son, and every person I can find who was hurt by what I did to Hartwell." Elena turned her head to look at him. "I can't give them back the company, but I've established a compensation fund using the personal assets I kept separate from Cross Industries. Full salary continuation for 5 years, health insurance, mortgage assistance, college funds for their kids." He paused. "It's not enough. Nothing I do will ever be enough. But it's a start." "Why?" The question was barely audible. "Because you were right. I chose conquest over partnership. I chose my vision of success over the actual human cost. And He stopped, throat tight. "I lost you. I lost 9 months of watching our daughter grow inside you. I lost the chance to hold your hand during the pregnancy, to feel her kick, to be there when she was born. I lost everything that mattered because I was so focused on winning that I forgot what winning was supposed to be for." Elena was silent for a long moment. Then, "The cancer treatment patent, what happened to it?" "You sold it to the research consortium. They're distributing it to generic manufacturers. It'll save thousands of lives and make almost no profit." He smiled weakly. "It's brilliant. It's what I should have done from the start. It's what we could have done together." Elena said softly, "If you'd trusted me." "I know." "Damian." She turned to face him fully. "I can't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What you did, it broke something in me. It broke my family. And even if you spend the rest of your life making amends, that doesn't erase the choice you made to hurt us in the first place." He nodded, the words landing like physical blows. "But," she continued, and he looked up, "Sophia deserves to know her father, not the corporate raider. Not the man who destroyed companies, but whoever you're capable of becoming if you actually do the work to change. I will. I swear to you. Don't make promises." Elena's voice was firm. "Make choices, different choices, every single day. And maybe, eventually, those choices will add up to someone I can trust again." Act 4. Oh Holy Night. The surgery took 6 hours. Damian and Elena waited in separate corners of the family lounge, neither speaking, both wrapped in their own terror. Around them, other families celebrated Christmas, balloons, presents, carols playing softly from a radio. The contrast was surreal. At 1:47 p.m., Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the pediatric cardiac surgeon, emerged in scrub. The repair was successful. Sophia stable, She'll need monitoring for the next 48 hours. But barring complications, she should make a full recovery. Elena broke down then, sobbing into her hands. Damian wanted to hold her, to share the relief, but he stayed in his corner. It was quieter work, less prestigious. It paid a fraction of what he'd once made. It felt right. "She's been asking for you," Elena said, approaching. They were cordial now, sometimes even friendly. She'd started letting him have supervised visits 3 months ago, unsupervised visits 2 weeks ago. It was progress measured in increments, trust rebuilt molecule by molecule. "I brought the paperwork," Damian said, shifting Sophia to one hip. "The final compensation payments clear next week. Everyone affected by Hartwell's collapse has been made whole, as much as possible. Daniel told me. He's grateful." Elena paused. "I'm grateful. It doesn't fix what I did." "No," she agreed, "but it matters that you tried." They stood together, watching Sophia attempt to eat a candy cane. Around them, families celebrated, broken people finding joy, sick children laughing, parents holding on to hope. "I got you something," Damian said quietly, pulling a small wrapped box from his pocket. It's not jewelry or anything. Just something I thought you'd like." Elena unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a key. "The deed to your grandfather's house," Damian explained. "I bought it back from the bank when it was foreclosed, had it fully restored. It's in your name. I thought, your family deserves to have that piece of history back." Elena stared at the key, tears welling up. Her grandfather's house, where she'd spent summers as a child, where her mother had taught her about medicine and compassion, where Hartwell Pharma had been founded in a converted garage. "Damian, I can't give you back the company, or the time I stole, or the trust I broke." He watched Sophia play with the key, oblivious to its significance. "But I can give you back pieces, when I find them, little by little, for as long as you'll let me." Elena touched his arm, the first time she'd initiated physical contact in over a year. "Thank you." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way he'd once hoped. But it was something real, something honest, something built on actions rather than empty promises. Sophia dropped the key and demanded, "Up, Mama." Elena took her, and for a moment, the three of them stood together in the hospital's festive chaos. Not a family, not exactly, but not separate either. Something in between. Something still being defined. "Next week," Elena said, "if you want, you can come to her pediatrician appointment. I thought it's time you started being involved in the day-to-day stuff." "I'd like that." "And Damian," she met his eyes, "keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Keep being this person instead of who you were." "I will." "Then maybe," Elena said softly, "maybe someday we can figure out what forgiveness looks like. Not for the past, but for whatever future we're building." It wasn't a happy ending. It was something harder and more honest. A beginning, fragile and uncertain, built on consequences faced and choices changed. Damian watched Elena carry Sophia toward the refreshment table, and for the first time in 2 years, he felt something other than regret or ambition. He felt hope. Outside, snow fell softly over Portland, blanketing the city in white. Inside, a little girl laughed. Her parents stood carefully apart, but moving slowly closer, and Christmas music played on. Not celebrating a miracle, but the hard daily work of becoming people worth loving. The Grovel wasn't a moment, it was a lifetime, and Damien Cross was finally learning what that meant.